Hey everybody, welcome to News Center 5. My name is Mitch Porter and I'm here with fellow anchor Joseph Howard.
We have a very special broadcast for you today. You may not know or realize, but today is exactly 83 years and 23 days since the infamous criminal Al Capone was indicted for tax evasion.
Today we're going to take you back in time, the 1920s, a time remembered for its booming economy, its extravagant lifestyle, and its lively nightlife filled with parties, dancing, and jazz music.
But the river of nostalgia flows thick. The roaring 1920s were not what it was remembered as. Just like today, the time period was filled with crime lords, overflowing prisons, and drug abuse.
For a true look on the comparison between the two eras, let's take it down to reporter Kitzia Diaz. Kitzia?
Thanks, Mitch. I'm here at Ashland Library here, and we're going to see if we can get an interview from somebody here. Hi, can I ask you a question here?
Sure.
So, in your opinion, what are the parallels between crime today and crime in the 1920s?
I think that the parallels.
Thanks for that, Kitzia.
One specific thing that contributed to the 1920s was the ratification of the 18th Amendment, more known as Prohibition.
Prohibition, the law that made the creation, distribution, and intake of alcoholic products illegal. The law was passed in efforts to limit crime because concern was growing over the popularity over alcoholism in America. This proved to be ironic because not only did Prohibition not lower crime rates, the crime rates increased during the Prohibition era and people didn't stop drinking.
Violent crimes like homicides in America increased by 13%. There was an 81% increase in drunk driving. There was a 366% prison population increase. All of this occurred despite the 18th Amendment, and with it, an $11.4 million increase in police funding.
As the era continued, it became a staple for irony. Intended to lessen crime in the United States, crime actually skyrocketed. The crime center of the nation was the city of Chicago, and the leader of the crime in this city was infamous gangster Al Capone.
Now for an expert on crime analysis, let's take it down to Jack Wice.
Throughout the 1920s, the city of Chicago, Illinois served as a hub of crime in America, with its violent gangs and infamous mobsters. No mobster, however, was more prominent and known as Al Capone, who at age 26 was already the most powerful crime boss in America. Capone's gang, including over 1,000 members, was influential in Chicago, gaining a notorious reputation. The success of Capone's gang relied heavily on illegal activities that garnered strong public demand during Prohibition, such as liquor, gambling, and prostitution. By surrounding himself with men he trusted, Capone became a nearly invincible target and eluded multiple assassination attempts by his rivals. Capone was also known for swiftly and efficiently disposing of his opponents. In one instance, Al Capone invited Albert Anselmi and John Scalise, enemies of his from rival gangs, to a banquet honoring them. After seating his two guests at the dinner party, Capone proceeded to bash the two men's brains in with a club. Al Capone may be most remembered, however, for the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, in which several of Capone's men disguised themselves as police and killed 5 members of a rival gang. Although Capone was never charged with murdering the men, it still played an important role in the life of the criminal. Capone's reign over Chicago came to an abrupt end on October 18, 1931, when he was sentenced to 11 years in prison for tax evasion. Capone was released on November 16, 1939 after serving 7 years in prison, and never recovered from his time in prison. He died on January 25, 1947. Now back to Mitch and Joe at the station.
Thanks, Jack. We have a very special treat for you all today. Deep in the archives, our historians have discovered never-before-seen footage of the Al Capone trial. Enjoy.
Has the jury reached a consensus?
Yes, we have, Your Honor. In the case of Alphonse Capone, we find the defendant guilty of tax evasion.
Al Capone will serve 11 years in a federal prison.
Wow, what an exciting piece of American history. Meanwhile, while crime was skyrocketing in the North, social divisions were growing larger and larger in the South. Along with Prohibition, the 1920s brought along the resurgence of a group known as the Ku Klux Klan. The group is still around today, and it is remembered for its racial intolerance towards blacks, Jews, Catholics, immigrants, and many other non-Protestant groups.
The leader of the KKK was a part-time dentist known as Hiram Wesley Evans, known to the KKK as the Imperial Wizard.
Their awful and ignorant acts, such as church burnings, murders, and rapes, led to social revolutions like the Harlem Renaissance. The Harlem Renaissance introduced a new representation of black pride in America, which was shown through their artwork. Blacks wrote stories, poems, and music as a way of expressing their culture and a way to show pride.
One of the most famous artists of the era was jazz musician Louis Armstrong. He was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, which was the birthplace of jazz music. As a kid, he would perform on street corners for pennies to support his family. By the age of 23, he was already performing with one of the most prominent orchestras, Fletcher Henderson. However, his rise to fame did not end there. He became a regular performer at the Cotton Club.
Thank you, folks, for tuning into our special broadcast. That's all the time we have for you today. I hope you had a good time.
Thank you.